The manga begins by showing a palace within the heavenly demon cult. We hear an older man saying that he regrets to inform that the medicine will not work, despite its high cost. The heir of the cult responds that an energy deviation cannot be resolved so easily. He claims that it is not the doctor's fault but his own for being a mediocre disciple. He explains that his lower core was born broken. Additionally, with a body unable to retain internal energy, he dedicated all his efforts to mystical arts and managed to become the heir of the heavenly demon cult. Everything was a way to repay his debt to his master, but he has still not achieved this goal. He states that Ebei's medicine was useless and wonders where he could find something better. Then we hear a different man addressing the heir, saying it has been a while since they last met, interrupting his thoughts. He asks if the heir has been well during his absence, revealing himself as the vice leader of the cult. The heir responds that it has indeed been a long time and reveals that the vice leader's name is Shun Haijin. He comments that Raiden's journey through the lands of the cult must have taken quite some time. Raiden responds that since the leader and the heir are unable to perform their duties, it is his responsibility to do what is necessary for the prosperity of the cult. The heir acknowledges and now thanks him for his efforts, but with a cold tone, back in his room, he comments that it is unlikely that the serpent came out just to see how the people are doing. He places his cup on the table and says he needs to stop Raiden before he does something stupid. Suddenly, he feels a sharp pain in his chest. He says he did not expect this, thinking he was attacked as soon as he entered his quarters. It now makes sense why the drink was so good. While crushing the cup, he asks the people hiding in the rafters if they would like a sip, saying he feels bad for drinking it all alone. One of them shouts, "Attack!" and they start jumping from the ceiling. The heir comments that even though they brought him this precious liquor, they made a grave mistake by invading his quarters. 4 of them punch directly at his chest only to discover they were deceived by one of his illusion arts. The heir appears on the other side of the room, saying that if they wanted to kill him in his own territory, they should have been better prepared. As we see the aura emanating from his eyes, they quickly redirect their attacks at him. He says he warned them, extending his hand and clenching it tightly, saying they are no match for him. Chains start flying around the room, piercing and killing the invaders instantly. Others appear, and he comments that it seems they now understand the stage is set. He says that as a nephew, he is quite disappointed with this betrayal, pointing to Raiden and the other elders who look suspicious. Raiden explains that the red-beaked crane is a poison capable of melting an entire ox with just a pinch, and wonders how the heir is still laughing after drinking a glass of it, calling him a monster. The heir, surrounded by bodies, comments that if his body were in better condition, he would have surely left a hole in Rin's head, but it is unfortunate that he cannot do so. Haijin responds that he is also disappointed for not achieving his dreams, and says that he cannot allow an orphan unable to learn martial arts to become the next leader. He claims that the superiors even gave permission for this. Signaling to the man behind him, they all begin to surround the heir. The heir says that the elders are easily frightened and asks if they really plan to attack him as a group after poisoning him. Raiden taunts, saying that if he had played the role of heir properly, this wouldn't be happening. But the heir asks him to stop the lies and asks who is behind this, catching Ain Finin by surprise, who claims it was a decision made by him and the elders. The heir retorts, saying he knows they wouldn't have the courage for this, and starts listing possible culprits until he gets a reaction. He concludes that it probably came from outside the cult, and accuses Raiden and the elders of selling the cult to kill him. He also asks if the master ended up like that because of them. Enraged, Raiden advances towards the heir with a ball of ice in his hand, who taunts him once more after being hit. The heir comments that this is the price his master paid for trusting someone he always believed in, only to be betrayed in the end. Haijin grabs him by the neck and states that, despite hating him, they both trained under the same master, and as the acting leader, he will end his life himself. The heir laughs, saying that Rin should stop pretending, as his lack of intelligence makes him nothing but a puppet. We finally learn that the heir's name is Yan Unui. He states that Haijin's attitude shows that he doesn't want an easy death. Even while spitting blood, Yuin starts to laugh uncontrollably, which frightens the elders. With intensity increasing, he says that after everything, they still don't understand. If they wanted to kill him, they should have remembered an important detail. Haijin tries to silence him, but Unui takes something from his hand, surprising Ridin. It's the demonic dragon sword. As he wields the sword, a purple aura is released, pushing Ridin back. He then realizes that Unyuin had already accumulated so much mystical power. Unyuin says he has put all his mystical power that possesses into the sword that contains the will of the first celestial demon. And while gathering all the necessary energies to defend against civil attacks, this was the goal he had in mind. The other elders began to panic, saying they needed to quickly use their internal energy to block the attack as the sword began to float in the air. Uni says that it's too late, as they are destined to die there. The next moment, the sword starts using a skill called Infernal Art of Soul Combustion, which immediately emits a pressure so heavy it seems to suck all the light from the room. Some of the elders are thrown back, almost as if they are disintegrating, and Yenan watches as it becomes her turn, screaming Unui's name. Outside the palace, there is silence until it seems that space-time itself is being distorted, followed by a gigantic explosion that destroys the entire palace, leaving only the ground where it stood. We see Yen sitting where the palace used to be, saying that as regrettable as his life has been, he didn't expect to die this way. He comments that the snow falling around him reminds him of when he was younger. We see some children brutally kicking him, mocking him for seeing ghosts. One of them says that if he repeats that he is carrying an evil spirit, he will face an even worse fate. They begin to mock his broken lower core, saying that if they were in his place, they would have taken their own lives a long time ago. Unui looks at a stone on the ground, picks it up, and says that he only spoke what he saw. But all he received in return was hatred. He refuses to accept all the suffering the world tries to impose on him. Unui jumps off the ground, running towards the man who assaulted him, and we see blood flying. Unui comments that he never had the patience to stay quiet. We only hear their screams while Yunyui says they don't know when to give up, just like the spirits we see floating before him, and he tells them to disappear. Then we hear someone saying that Unui is special. He gets scared, thinking about how long that man had been there, since he didn't feel his presence. Based on the clothes and the even more luxurious sword, he realizes that place is far from the forest path, so the man must have come specifically after him. Unui begins to laugh sadly, saying that the man must be interested in his cursed eyes and that he can take them if he wants. Used to a life where hatred and disrespect are natural, he offers his eyes, saying that the man can rip them out, eat them, or do whatever he wants. The man quickly covers Unui with a coat, saying that those eyes are not a curse but a blessing. He explains that some people are born with a blessed upper core and a special characteristic in their soul, and that these children always end up doing great things. Unui says that the words sound sweet, but he would normally think they were lies. However, the man continues saying that he has the potential to become more special than anyone else in the world. Unui, already falling for it, feels it as the first demonstration of human warmth in his life. The man asks if he would follow him, and Unui accepts, marking the moment he meets his master, the Heavenly Demon. When the Heavenly Demon asks if he has a name, Unui responds that he doesn't. The master says that to commemorate the moment they met, he would like to give him the name Unui, giving him a new reason to live. We return to Unui sitting there. He says he did what he could to help his master, but because of his cursed body, the master fell into a state of energy deviation. Accepting to die there would be too humiliating. Even though his body is about to collapse, there is only one way out for him. He slams his hands on the ground, emitting golden energy, and says he is using the forbidden art of Zoroastrianism called the primordial divine wheel of reincarnation, which allows one to overcome death by transferring their soul to another body. Even if it works, he is destined to live a short life due to the body's rejection of the soul. He uses the remaining mystical energy from the fragments of the demonic dragon sword to activate the art and leaves the rest in the hands of fate. Unui looks at his master's palace and begs him to resist. When the golden aura starts to bloom like a lotus flower, it opens, sending a beam of light into the sky. Unui once again wishes for his master's safety until his return. His vision goes completely dark until he hears a woman complaining. She says that as the son of a concubine, he should remain reclusive. He comments that his whole body is numb and tingling, and waking up to the sound of yelling is the worst. He then wakes up asking if the wheel of reincarnation really worked, and we hear the woman calling him Tang Ui, asking if he is listening and ordering him to get off the ground immediately. Unui gets up, noting that ironically he still has the same first name as his past life. The woman, on the other hand, says she has been emphasizing something since earlier. She raises a stick to hit him, but he stops her in mid-swing, commenting that her breath stinks and asking her to speak facing the other way. He even calls her old. She, irritated, asks how he dares to disrespect her lessons and still insult her, before slamming the door shut and saying he shouldn't dream of leaving. He sighs in relief, sitting on the bed and commenting that he can finally have some peace and quiet. According to the remaining memories in his body, that woman is the child's stepmother, and the primordial wheel of reincarnation only works on bodies that have just died or are about to die. Even though this boy was not her biological son, he can't believe she beat him to death. He thought his previous life was pitiful, but Ween Uwen's life in this body might be equivalent. He says that his body is poorly trained and in terrible health, but this body has something the previous one didn't: a lower energy core. He reveals that if he can train his lower core to learn martial arts in addition to the mystical arts he learned using the upper core, and use the power of his eyes to control the dead, he will turn this into something the world has never seen and is not prepared to face. And this is not a possibility, but a necessity. Only this way will he be able to protect his master and show the scoundrels who betrayed and harmed his cult that they chose the wrong fight. Yui begins to explain that the Shang Tang Clan is one of the 6 great clans of Muing and the ruler of Shuan. To the west of them is Tibet, where the Potala Palace and Ganhai are located, home to the Kunlun sect. To the south are the Celestial Dragon Temple, the Shen Kong sect, and the 5 poison sects. To the north is the front line of the Central Plains, which opposes the Heavenly Demon cult. There is the group led by Kleng and the guard called the Storm Squad. The leader of the Storm Squad, also known as the Storm Swordsman, is Tang Husong. He founded a branch of the Tang Clan called the 9 Dragons Division. The Patriarch Tang, the Supreme of Darkness Tang M. Yuk, entrusted the division to Tang Husan, in whom he had deep faith. Husan had 3 heirs. 2 were sons he had with Nangun Sanon, his legitimate wife. They were his first son, Tang Kijin, and his third son, Tang Yushan. Comparatively, the second son was born as a result of an affair with a maid, a mistake he made while drunk. And it is in this body that he was reincarnated. Although an illegitimate son, he is still the son of the patriarch of the branched family, meaning he is a candidate for heir. We hear a servant yelling at him, saying that he needed to beg for forgiveness since the matriarch ordered not to bring food to the White Pavilion, and it seems that everyone will also go hungry. Yui sighs, saying he can't believe even a servant despises him. He then slaps the servant's face, throwing him to the other side of the room. The servant asks what the hell he thinks he's doing since he was being so kind and giving him advice. He tells him that if he continues acting like this, he will have no choice but to fight back. But Yoon looks at him. Yuno glares back and gives him another slap, making the servant start to complain that if he keeps hitting him, he will get into trouble. Yui doesn't care and repeats it several times until the servant starts crying and apologizing. After giving him a good beating, Yui tells Hangan that he trusts he will do the right thing, as he is a friend from his mother's hometown and hopefully understands how he feels. Hyung-san says that of course he understands and will never forget the kindness that he and the second lady showed him and will work even harder to serve them. Mu then smiles, saying that now he will certainly get what he wants, and Han Yang-san starts crying, saying he will prepare immediately and runs off. Mui sighs, saying he can't believe his hand is hurting just from hitting him a few times, and wonders how weak the original Eunho was. He says that not only is the body weak, but he also has no allies within the clan, partly because the matriarch is after him. It's hard to move within the Tang clan under these conditions. All he can do is accumulate internal energy and then show what he is capable of. Although the problem is the Tang clan's energy in this body, like the 9 blades of the heavenly demon of his master, it is a demonic art. He can't use it with the cultivation technique of an orthodox faction. However, there must be many cultists within the demon cult who came from Kleng and have been there for 1,000 years, and this will put a lot of pressure on his upper meridian since his body was not trained. So, taking the memories of placing it in the upper meridian, which was naturally large, he will copy it from reality to the imaginary space and manifest it there. Upon opening his eyes, he says that this space he is witnessing is purely a manifestation of his, as it is part of the heavenly demon cult called the Millennial Secret Archive. Fortunately, it seems that using the divine will of reincarnation did not cause him to lose many of his memories. In his current situation, the most suitable cultivation method for him would be the cultivation technique of the poison dragon from the Clan martial group, which specialized in this. If he uses demonic arts through the poison dragon technique, no one will suspect anything. The problem is that he needs to go through excruciating pain to embrace the poisonous energy to replenish the poison. He also needs to consume higher-level poison. However, now that he has used his upper meridian, his cursed eyes have finally been opened. We see him smiling and asking someone on the other side of the room how long they plan to keep looking at him. He says that although he was known for being handsome in his previous life, he will still feel a bit embarrassed if they stare for too long. We see that he is talking to Ajane and the other elders. Ajane yells at him, saying that everyone always said he was crazy, but even so, he dares to subject the vice leader of the cult to this state. All the other elders also say that he needs to release the chains, or he will not be able to lead with his fury. Unui says that seeing them all react like this makes him extremely happy. They ask if he has such a horrible personality that not even death could change. Unun grabs their chains, saying that if so many were willing to kill, they should be prepared for the consequences. As he pulls Haijin to the ground, he states that they already knew about the abilities he possessed. When looking at Unui, Haijin sees a demon standing behind him. Haijin asks if this is truly the power of the Ghost King. Unan responds that if he remains in this state, he will not even be able to reincarnate and will certainly start to get impatient. Haijin strikes the ground, saying that what he probably wants is information. In case he wants it, he has all the information he possesses. Yunu interrupts, saying that he does not need it. Raidin is surprised, and Un affirms that many people will provide him with that information. He places his hand directly on Raidin's head, and everything goes black for Haijin, who starts being sucked into the sky. He screams only to transform into an orb in Unui's hand, who explains that it is called a spectral sphere. This sphere is filled with extreme resentment of the dead, being exponentially more lethal than the most powerful poison, and will now become his nourishment. While we still hear Haijin screaming inside the orb, Yun consumes him in front of all the imprisoned elders. He starts to feel excruciating pain in his body, making everything tense, and they comment that there is no way he could still be standing after consuming that. One of them comments if the others don't remember that they gave him the red beetroot poison and he simply ignored it. Unui says that now that Raidin has become nourishment for his poisonous dragon technique, it's time for the others to make a choice: obey him or be devoured. He transforms them all into orbs and starts spinning them in his hands, asking if they are truly following the orders of an organization known as the Association, even though they are elders of the heavenly demon cult. They plead, saying they are not lying. Yunho comments that it is an organization that doesn't even have a name, but the problem lies with its members. One of the elders says they refuse to reveal anything, and we'll see it in the next episode. Remember to subscribe and leave a like.